captions. Hi again, everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about what happens when we use 0 in a division problem. And we're going to start with the fact that we used the idea before that since 6 times 4 is 24, that 24 divided by 4 had to be 6. And we used those two related statements to help us figure out, for example, that negative 24 divided by 4 has to be negative 6 because negative 6 times positive 4 is negative 24. So we're going to do the same kind of thing. We're going to use the number 0 in various places in these division problems. So 24 divided by 4 is 6 because 6 times 4 is 24. I'm going to call that problem 0. Or maybe that's too confusing. Maybe I'll call it problem 1. So now suppose we want to figure out what 0 divided by 4 is. Well, one way to think about division is equal sharing. So suppose there are 24 pieces of candy and there are 4 people and we want all of the people to have the same amount of candy, then every person is going to get 6 pieces of candy. But if there's 0 pieces of candy and there's 4 people, well, everybody's going to get 0 pieces of candy. And the related multiplication would be this 0 that is the result. 0 divided by 4 has to be 0 precisely because this 0 multiplied by 4 is 0. I'm going to copy our example. Down again. Now we're going to look at a new problem. This time, 24 pieces of candy, but 0 people. Well, whatever that result is, it should be that result times 0 is 24. But any number times 0 is 0. There is no number that makes question mark times 0 equal to 24 true. So therefore, there is no number that makes 24 divided by 0 equal to that number true. It's impossible. So we say that 24 divided by 0 is undefined. It does not have a definition. It looks like a fraction. It looks like it should be a number, but it's not a number. If it were a number, we should be able to multiply that number by 0 and get 24, but that's impossible. I'm going to copy our example down again. And now let's look at a new problem. What if it was 0 divided by 0? What could that be? Well, if it is a number, then whatever that number is, I should be able to multiply it by 0, and I should be able to get 0. This time, every number makes question mark times 0 equal to 0 true. So therefore, if the question mark is a number, it could be any number. So 0 divided by 0 could be any number. But that's a problem. We want all of us to have the same answer for what 0 divided by 0 is. But we could all argue that whatever number we individually pick is okay. And so we say that 0 over 0 is not well defined. It has potentially has more than one definition. And we don't want it to have more than one definition, so we don't allow it. It looks like a number, but it's not a number. So suppose n is any real number other than 0. Then 0 divided by n is 0, because 0 times n is 0. N divided by 0 is undefined, because something times 0 equals n is impossible. And 0 divided by 0 is not well defined, because something times 0 equals 0 is true for any number. It's okay to say that 0 divided by 0 is undefined. The actual problem is that it has too many definitions, and so we throw them all out. So 0 divided by 8 is 0. 8 divided by 0 is undefined. It does not exist. It looks like a number, it's not a number. 0 divided by 0 is undefined. Technically, it's not well defined, but at this level of your studies, if you say that it's undefined, that's perfectly acceptable answer. It's like sitting a toddler or a preschooler down at a computer keyboard and opening up a Microsoft Word document for them and letting them type away on the keyboard. Well, they don't know how to spell yet, a toddler. They don't know that in order to make a word, letters have to be in a certain order. So maybe you let them play around on the computer for a little bit and type up a document, And then they're going to say to you, hey, uncle, aunt, hey, mom, dad, brother, sister, friend, whatever. I just wrote a story. What does it say? And the adult is going to have to say to the child, you know, it looks like a story because there's lots of letters on the page, and it looks like there's words and sentences, but actually it doesn't say anything because none of the letters are in the right order. And there aren't really any words that you typed on the page. But don't worry, you'll learn about that later. So 8/0 looks like it should be a number. It looks like it should be a fraction, but it's not. It doesn't exist. Likewise, if we have 0/0, it looks like a fraction, it looks like a number, but it is not a number. It's undefined. And even if the 8, say, was a negative number, like -9, 0 divided by -9 is 0. -9 divided by 0 is undefined. And again, well, 0 divided by 0 is undefined. So I guess I wouldn't have had to say that example. It's the same as example 3. So we know that reciprocals have a product of the number 1. So for example, if I take 5/9 and I multiply by 9/5, well, that's 45/45, which is 1. Or if I were to take 5 times 1/5, I could think of my 5 as 5/1 multiplied by 1/5. That would be 5/5, but that's 1 whole unit. These two examples are examples that we talked about the other day. Looks like I'm going to have to open it again here. When we talked about the inverse property of multiplication, oops. The reason that we have to exclude this number from being 0 is because 1/0 is undefined. 1/0 does not exist. So 0 does not have a reciprocal. Because if you tried to multiply 0 by something and get an answer of 1, that's impossible. If you could get such a number, it would have to be equivalent to 1/0. But that's undefined. So the important thing to remember is that in any fraction, the denominator cannot be 0. So 8/0 is undefined. -9/0 is undefined. 1/0 is undefined. If we took those three things that sort of look like fractions, but instead of writing them as a fraction, we tried to write them as a division, eight divided by 0 is undefined. It doesn't exist. -9 divided by 0 is undefined. 1 divided by 0 is undefined. 0 divided by 0 is undefined. And so written this way, 0 divided by 0 is undefined. So you will often hear people say, we cannot divide by 0. Division by 0 is undefined. It doesn't exist. We can write it or type it on a piece of paper, but it has no meaning. Just like when a child is just banging away at a keyboard and then asks you, what does it say? And you have to tell them, it doesn't say anything. So 0 divided by 0, let me say that again, 0 divided by not 0 is 0, but not 0 divided by 0 is undefined. So 0 divided by 25 is 0, but 25 divided by 0 is undefined. We'll see you next time.